Hello, spider friends, movie aficionados, and TV lovers. We're here to do my final top 10 list for the decade. Not my final top 10 list, because I'm still going to do the year yet. But yes, this is for the decade. This is for the period of time going between 2010 and 2019. Now, but this time I'm doing the top 10 TV shows. We're doing the best and worst. My rule is I have to have seen it, and it has to have taken place within the decade. It doesn't really matter to me if it started prior to this decade and then finished in this one, because otherwise, like, it would be impossible to have things if they were only contained within the particular decade. So anything that finished within the past 10 years or started within the past 10 years is fair game, as long as I have seen it. And when I say seen, like, the vast, overwhelming majority of it. Okay? So we're going to do it in the same order as we've done others. Worst first, save the best for last. And these are in no particular order for the worst, or the best, really, to be honest. No particular order at all. However, there will be some rants. So, pre-warning, pre-warning. I may get angry about some of these. So I apologise in advance. So let's start off. Let's get it over and done with. Number one, worst choice for TV shows of the decade, Game of Thrones. I loved Game of Thrones. I loved Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was set to be the greatest TV show ever made. It was set to be like my favourite thing of all time. It was so epic, so vast, and the biggest disappointment. Oh God, like, I'm an active Redditor and have been on, like, r/freefolk since pretty much it started. And oh, like, to this day, people on freefolk are still very angry about Game of Thrones, and so am I, about how Game of Thrones ended. Like it is amazing to me that I can go from loving something so much to me being like, I can't watch it again. I can't watch it again. It's ruined for me forever. I used to, like, rewatch Game of Thrones at least twice a year, all the way through, like, every single year. And now, when I think of anything to do with Game of Thrones, I think of how it ended, and it just retroactively ruined the entire thing for me. I can't enjoy it anymore. I've, like, gotten rid of so much Game of Thrones stuff. Like, I have kept a few things. I've kept a pillow because pillows are handy. I've kept, like, I have an Iron Throne model that my friend got me for Christmas the other year, and I've kept that because I have one of my Tony Stark action figures sitting on it. But, like, and I've kept my Brienne of Tarth action figure because I still love Gwendolyn Christie. But just, I mean, you don't need me to go over, like, all the reasons why it was so hated by the fans. But we forgave a lot along the way. And I've been thinking about this, like, when I'm comparing it to The Witcher. Like, I pretty much felt the way about The Witcher as I did about the first season of Game of Thrones. I wasn't sold on the first season of Game of Thrones. I wasn't sold on Game of Thrones until about season 3. And then I was like, oh, this is some epic stuff. Like, I forgave a lot because I was like, because it'll pay off in the end. It'll pay off in the end. And it never did. It never paid off. Like, so, like, when I was watching The Witcher, it really did remind me of how I felt about season 1 of Game of Thrones, which was that, like, narrative wise, it was a little bit of a it was a little bit messy. There was a lot of characters. There wasn't much explanation about this, that, and the other, and I felt like it didn't really find its stride until season 3. And I felt like season 3 of Game of Thrones was its quintessential season. But I don't want to go through this again with The Witcher. Like, I don't want to go through, like, the building up and going to love something only to be heartbroken. And since I watched The Witcher, I have now listened to the audiobook and have like watched some reviews of the games, and I pretty much can conclude I really don't think it's for me. I mean, if it's for you, great, but it's really not for me. So I think I got a lot less angry about Game of Thrones than I was anticipating, but that was a pleasant surprise for me. It was really, really lovely to be a part of the charity fundraising, though, I must say, because the fans were so pissed off with, like, D&D, the writers. What we ended up doing was fundraisers for, like, all of the lead actors' favourite charities. The main one was for, like, Amelia Clark and her charity, and we also did one for, like, Kit Harington and his charity, MCAP, that he supports. And then we also, like, donated to other actors' charities as well, as a sort of thing of defiance to say to the actors, we still love you. It was the show that we hated. So yeah, if you happened to have been in Game of Thrones and you're like, oh no, another person's slagging it off, I loved all the actors. It was not the actors, it was the writers that ruined the show. So along the same vein, number 2 is How I Met Your Mother. That ended in 2014. So, like, a good chunk of this decade, it counts, even though it started in the previous one. I loved How I Met Your Mother. It was funny, it was clever, it was subversive, and they ruined it forever. The final season, it was bad. Like, the final, like, 3 seasons were quite bad, but I stuck with it because I was such a fan of the show, and I was hoping for the payoff. And then the payoff was spoilers. Even though in the first episode we are told Ted does not end up with Robin, guess what happens? Ted ends up with Robin. And what they did to Barney and Robin was awful. And what they did to Barney as well, like, the idea of Barney addressing the mother of his child by a number was like, well, this is a bit of a dick move. So whenever I think about How I Met Your Mother, the ending retroactively ruins the rest of the show for me. Like, whenever I think about all the little in-jokes that I used to enjoy with friends, like saluting and, like, general disarray, major problem. Like, I used to have a little, like, French horn Christmas ornament that I'd painted blue with nail varnish that used to go on the tree. Doesn't anymore. Does not anymore. What was its strength? Its continuity became its biggest hindrance, and by the end of the show, it was ruined forever. Just, I can't go back and rewatch it because I think about how it ends, and then it annoys me. I'm trying to stop on the swearing. Yeah, so that was another show that was retroactively ruined forever. Number 3 is Castle. I really liked Castle to start with. It was different. It was a bit subversive in that Castle sort of insisted from the beginning that he was going to end up with his partner, Kate Beckett. But then what happened is what happens so very often in these shows, that once the 2 main characters get together, the writers don't know what to do with them anymore. And they don't know how to write for them anymore. And so it just sort of falls apart. And it's like the minute that they got together, they then tried to come up with reasons to keep them apart. And it was very frustrating. And the show rapidly fell apart after that. And it became a big downfall. It wasn't retroactively ruined forever. I'm pretty sure I could go back and watch some of the earlier seasons if I wanted to, but honestly, I just don't feel compelled to. Number 4 is The Mentalist, which only finished in 2015. Um, this was another show that started really strongly with a really interesting concept. The hunt for Red John, the big bad. The problem was once they revealed Red John. See, over the many years of The Mentalist, they laid out all these clues about Red John. It was like this particular clue. We know this about him. We know this about him. We know this about him. And we know this about him. So by the time it got to the season where we knew they were going to reveal Red John, it was down to about 3 characters who'd been in the show, who it fit, who the clues fit. It would have fit like 3 characters, and everyone had their own theories as to who it definitely was. But like it was like 3 guys, and it was like, right, it's got to be one of these 3. It's got to be one of these 3. And then when they revealed it, it wasn't one of the 3 that the fans had speculated. It was a guy who'd been in the first episode. But none of the clues really fit well to him. It fit other characters much better and made a lot more sense fitting other repeating characters. So, like, after that had been revealed, again, it sort of fell apart because the payoff wasn't worth the build up because the payoff had taken so long. If perhaps they'd have just done a different serial killer every season, I think that the show would have been a lot stronger. I think, like, if Red John had just been season 1, and then season 2 they did a different serial killer, and it's like down to the fans to work it out, I think that would have been a lot stronger. But as it was, once they revealed Red John, and it was ultimately incredibly disappointing as to who it turned out to be, the show just then fell apart. Which leads me to the next one, number 5, True Blood. Now, I am a huge fan of the books. The Sookie Stackhouse mysteries, which were retronymed the True Blood series after the TV show. But in the books, there's more than one brand of alternative blood, and True Blood I don't even think is even mentioned in the first book. There's like a few different ones that are mentioned. But anyway, the first 2 seasons sort of cover the first 2 books really well, and then it goes off book, and then it ends up going so off book that they couldn't return to the books to use any of the storylines from them. So then they were sort of just winging it, and that is when the show crashed and burned and was just not very good. See, they made a lot of changes, and I didn't really disagree with many of them to begin with because it made more sense. For example, the character of Tara was a combination of maybe 3 or 4 book characters who were then sort of mishmashed together, and then they made some stuff up, and now she's Sookie's best friend, and this replaces other characters. Okay, I understand that. We're consolidating, we're bringing the number of actors down, just it makes more sense having one character be present instead of having this character and this character and this character. Let's just make it the one character, make it more cohesive, more streamlined storyline. Totally get that. A big problem for True Blood was that Anna Paquin and Stephen Moyer fell in love and got married. This was a huge problem because then Sookie and Bill had to stay together. Their characters had to stay together because the actors were together. And in the books, Bill leaves very, very quickly. In the books, he sort of off and is barely in it, like after the second one, barely in it. And Alexander Skarsgård's character, Eric, becomes Sookie's main love interest throughout most of the books. apart from the final one, which we will not discuss because it was terrible. But anyway, um, the TV show really fell apart once it couldn't follow the narrative plot of the books anymore. See, like, one of my favourite books of the series is like book 5 or 6, where Suki goes to this like vampire conference, and she's invited by Queen Sophie, who gets killed in the show, but not in the books. And like, she's very much treated like she's precious to all the vampires. The vampires in their king like really love Suki. They adore her because she does so much for them. And oh God, as much as I love Dennis O'Hare, and his portrayal of King Russell Edgington was just and James Frayne as Franklin, which was again a mishmash of other characters, like that was brilliant. But it all sort of falls apart after that because then they can't follow the book storylines. They were just winging it. They were just doing their own thing, and then like very little of it made sense. They seemed to be doing things to accommodate the actors rather than doing the logical thing and accommodating the characters. Also, I will never forgive them for what they did to Claude. Claude is a character who's introduced like in the books. He's Suki's cousin. He goes to, like, he ends up living with her, and Claude in the books is amazing, and he's not really in the show. And like Claudine is not really in the show either. She gets killed off straight away, which was very very disappointing because she was a very popular book character. Um, if you've not read the books, it's basically like, imagine they did the first 3 Harry Potters, and then it got to like number 4, and then they were like, let's just do Harry goes to Las Vegas. Let's do Harry goes on holiday. Let's do Harry does this. Let's have a crossover with the Terminator franchise. That's the kind of thing that they end up doing with True Blood, which was very disappointing, and the show suffered for it. But unlike Game of Thrones and How I Met Your Mother, I can go back and watch some of the early seasons of True Blood and sort of reminisce and go, oh, Alexander Skarsgård, you're so beautiful. Yes. So, number 6 is Dexter, which also finished in 2013. So it finished within this decade. It counts. One of the worst finales of all time. Like, this was very much discussed on r/freefolk on the Reddit forums, that like, worst season finales of all time: How I Met Your Mother, Dexter, Game of Thrones. Lost was also included, but I haven't watched Lost, so I can't really comment on whether it was good or bad because I was not there. I believe my brethren on Free Folk who said it was bad. I believe them. I have no reason to believe that they were lying. But yeah, Lumber Dexter. Oh God, now this is a show that benefited going off book. When they moved away from the book storylines, it was still fine on Dexter. It fell apart within the last few seasons, where I have no idea what they were thinking, but I think it probably got very awkward on set when Michael. Oh, all right, okay. I'm very sorry. I can't remember the actors' names off the top of my head, but basically, the lead guy who played Dexter and the girl who played his sister, like, got married in real life and then broke up. And after that, it kind of got a bit awkward. Especially when they wrote into the show Deborah falling in love with her brother. Like, the good seasons were the ones with Lundy in. But maybe the last good one was the one with Bail Organa in it, and then after that, it just went downhill. Yeah, so that was bad. Number 7 is The Big Bang Theory. I hate The Big Bang Theory. It is not a show for geeks, it's a show to laugh at geeks. It has never been very good-natured. It's always very much been, let's laugh at the geeks, aren't they stupid, they like Star Trek. It's never sort of lovingly took the piss, like in Community, when they had a Dungeons and Dragons episode. You could tell that even though there was like some mick taking, there was a lot of love that sort of went into it, whereas I always felt with the Big Bang Theory that it was like nerd culture was being just mocked and attacked. And the fact that they would always get so much wrong, oh my god. Like in one episode when they talked about World of Warcraft, and did you know you can have sex in World of Warcraft? No, you can't. No, you can't. And he said, oh, yeah, we did it under the bridge of Flippertipur. That bridge of Flippertipur, that I can't remember what it was in a dungeon. So, no, that wouldn't have happened either. They were like constantly confused different things. They would have like characters say things that just wouldn't make sense at all if they had actually sort of been involved with an actual nerdy person. Like, they had scientists on set to correct them on the science, but they didn't have a nerd on set to correct them on the nerd culture stuff, because I'm telling you now, there's no way Sheldon Cooper would have hated Babylon 5. It would have been right up his street, because trust me, I know a lot of Sheldon Coopers in real life. I am a Sheldon Cooper, and we all loved Babylon 5. So, yeah, I didn't like the Big Bang Theory, and I'm glad it's over. And I don't care if you liked it, it's my list. Okay, number 8 is Glee. Glee started really well. Its first 12 episodes were brilliant. They really were. It was something really different. And then after that, it just went to pot. It became a little bit hateful. And the show should have been built around Mr. Schuester. That should have been who the show would have been built around, because ultimately high school teenagers move out of high school. Once they got to the problem at the end of the first season that some of the kids that they'd said were seniors should have graduated at that point, but people were attached to the characters. This is why they needed to build the show around the teachers and not the students, but we had a sort of Saved by the Bell situation, why students who were supposed to be 18 when it started ended up not being 18 and ended up being in high school for far longer than I think you're actually supposed to be in high school in America. Just saying. Okay. Number 9. American Horror Story The Season Freak Show. Now, I would like to preface this by saying I absolutely adored everyone who was in Freak Show. Everyone. Loved them all. I really liked the characters, but the plot made no sense and it was a complete and utter mess. Not to mention the fact that Twisty the Clown, the character that they introduce, who's like meant to be I say meant to be, he is a terrifying clown, gets killed off in 3 episodes, and there's 10 episodes in the season. There is so much stuff in Freak Show that just annoys me so very, very much. And just, that season was a complete mess. It was more of a mess than Roanoke, because at least Roanoke had a solid first half of the season. Yeah, the second half of the season sucked, but like the first half was really solid and it was like a well-rounded story and everything. But Freak Show, just a complete and utter mess. I just don't know what happened during that season. I don't know what Ryan Murphy was thinking, but it was really bad. And again, this is not the actors, this is not the characters. The characters were really interesting. It was the writing that let it down. So I am sorry, Mr. Ryan Murphy. I am a huge fan of American Horror Story. It's just that particular season was definitely, it was very poor. Very poor. And then, finally, number 10, It's a little show no one has heard of, which is why it got cancelled. And that show is called Beware the Bat. Beware the Bat was a Batman TV series. It was like a CG animated, and it was supposed to be about like Batman first starting out. Oh, it was bad. Now, me and my friend watched this. We watched it all the way through, and we ended up really enjoying the show. We didn't like the show, but we really enjoyed the show because it was so bad. Like, Batman would be driving around Gotham City and the city was empty. Like, this is an animated show. It really doesn't cost them anything to put cars in the background on the roads or people or something. But, like, the city was always completely empty. There was a character who was voiced by Matthew Lillard, who for some reason they designed to look just like Dr. Bruce Banner in the Avengers. Like, purple shirt, glasses, curly hair, grey jacket, everything. It was Dr. Bruce Banner, as portrayed by Mark Wahlberg? No, no. What on earth am I talking about? Oh my god. Oh my god, brain. What is wrong with you? Oh my god. No, but it was voiced by Matthew Lillard. And yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And also, like, Professor Pig was a heavily featured character who I hate. I hate that character so much. Hated him in Beware the Bat, and then when he turned up in Arkham Knight, I was just like, why? Why, Professor Pig? Why? Why Professor Pig and Mr. Toad? Like, that's just stupid. Utterly stupid. But yeah, those were my 10, like, worst TV shows of the past decade. Let's do the best, okay? Let's be happy. Let's be happy. Okay, number 1, Agent Carter. I love Hayley Atwell. Hayley Atwell is the most beautiful woman in the entire world. She's so beautiful. She's so perfect. Like, I have the biggest girl crush on Hayley Atwell. Like, I am not attracted to women in a sexual way whatsoever. I just want to sort of put her on a pedestal and then be like, oh, you're just so beautiful. And, like, lay flowers at her feet. And then keep all men away from her because no one is good enough, apart from maybe Chris Evans. He's probably the only one I would allow. But yes, no, like, Hayley Atwell playing Agent Carter, God, it was marvellous. Oh, God, I wish it lasted more than 2 seasons. It was so good, and Hayley Atwell was so good in it as well, and there was so much stuff in it that was left unresolved. I really wanted to know what happened to Madame Mask. That was, like, one of my big things. But yeah, Agent Carter, if you never watched it but you're a fan of the Marvel films, please watch it because it was just excellent. It really, really was. Okay, next is Community. I'm a huge fan of Community. I love Community. I love every single season. 6 seasons, guys. 6 seasons. There might be a movie. That's right. 6 seasons and a movie. Okay, if you've never watched Community, it's about a group of community college students who have a Spanish class together. It's a sitcom. Chevy Chase is in it. Joel McHale. Donald Glover, now maybe more famous as Childish Gambino. Gillian Jacobs is in it. Oh, just such a funny show. And they were very much known for doing concept episodes. So, for example, they had an episode that was a zombie apocalypse. It was like a Halloween episode, and there were zombies, and it's canon. At the end of the episode, it's still canon. It's not like we did this random episode, and it's not like a Treehouse of Horror. It's a canon episode. Like, they did another episode that was all in claymation, and they did another one that was like the Muppets, and they did one that was animated like G.I. Joe. Like, their concept episodes were so original, so funny, and it was like Dan Harmon was like the heavily involved, and he ended up leaving. He had an argument with Chevy Chase, and then he came back, and some people are like, like, the show wasn't the same, but I still enjoyed all 6 seasons. So, in particular, the Law and Order episode, complete with the doo doo. Yeah, Community. If you've not watched it, please watch it. It's so good. Okay, next is Bojack Horseman. Now, I was really nervous about putting this on the list because it's not going to finish until next month, which will be 2020. And as I learned from Game of Thrones, everything can change with the final few episodes. So this is tentatively on the list, and it could be removed once I see the final episodes, if they manage to mess it up, which I don't think they will, but like, you never know. You never know. We could have another Game on situation. Bojack Horseman is the best representation that we have for various struggles with mental health, and it's a bit sad that the best representation that we have is a show about a talking horse. But if you've ever, like me, dealt with like any kind of mental health issues, then the show will sort of speak to you on a really spiritual level, because I don't know of any other show that's been able to portray what it's like going through things like depression, through addiction, grief. Obviously, other shows have like tackled these topics, but in a sort of episode of the week way, where like in one episode of Flippity Doo, so and so is depressed, and then it's never mentioned again. Like, this is it's the 6th season now. It will be finishing its final few episodes, come out January 30th. I'm so nervous to see what's going to happen, to see how it's all going to turn out in the end. It might massively get messed up. But this show's so unique. It's so unique, and it's so clever and subversive and groundbreaking, and just, it comes at you in ways that you really don't expect, and sometimes those ways are like a punch to the gut, that still ends up making you laugh. It deals with some really like harsh issues, and like our lead character Bojack's not a good person, and they never try to make him seem like a good person. There's a lot weighing on these final episodes, I've got to say. I'm really nervous about it, but yeah, Bojack Horseman is definitely one of the best TV shows of the last decade. The next one on my list was cancelled way too soon, and that is Hannibal. Now, the reason Hannibal was cancelled is because it was a Brian Fuller show. Brian Fuller shows always get cancelled. I have loved like every single one of his shows. I loved Dead Like Me. I loved Pushing Daisies when I eventually watched it. I loved his pilot for like Mockingbird Lane because I was a huge fan of the monsters when I was a kid. Like, he was fired off Discovery, and we all know how that went. He was let go off of American Gods, and oh my god, the less said about that, the better. I don't know what it is, why people hate Brian Fuller in studios when, like, I love him in real life, because it was just such an amazing show. Like, the visuals in it were so good. I never thought, like, being a huge Hannibal fan, like, I've read all of the books, like, seen all the movies multiple times, like, and the TV show came out, I never ever thought I could love an interpretation of Hannibal as much as I ended up loving the one from the TV show. Like, Mads Mikkelsen has, like, redefined the character. Like, I can never ever imagine anyone other than Mads Mikkelsen playing the part now. Like, the silver fox that he is. So handsome. And, like, the fact that there will never be a conclusion, that we'll never know what happens. The fact that they totally filmed the kiss scene between Will and Hannibal, and Brian Fuller has said he's never going to release it. Oh, infuriating, but at least I have fan fiction to keep me going. That's all I can say. Okay, so number, what are we on? Like, number 4, 5, number 5. I've lost count. I didn't number these for some stupid reason. Number 5 is a one season wonder. It was one season of a show and it got cancelled. Well, actually, no, it didn't get cancelled. It just didn't get renewed. And if you've not seen it, please go watch it. Please give it some love. Right, it was called Bunheads. Oh, right, it was by the lady who made the Gilmore Girls. Only it was 11 million times better than the Gilmore Girls, and definitely a lot better than the return of the Gilmore Girls that happened recently. It was about a girl called Michelle who is like a Las Vegas showgirl, and she gets drunk one night and marries this guy who's like always admired her, and he dies and leaves her all of his money and property in his will, which includes his mother's dance studio. And Michelle ends up sort of staying and helping to teach at the dance studio, which is like a ballet school, bunheads, like it's what they call them. It's because they wear their hair in a bun. It was so wonderful. It was so lovely. It had a beautiful, beautiful, diverse cast of young women and men who were from like a whole mix of different backgrounds. The story was funny, it was clever, like you really felt for the characters, and I was gutted that it never got renewed because I just loved it so much. I've gone back and rewatched that show so many times, and just like, oh, it will always be forever in my heart. Okay, next is American Crime Story, O.J. Simpson versus the People, or whatever the hell the subtitle was. It was the O.J. Simpson story, basically. I'm a big true crime fan, and I really, really enjoyed this show because it was a really good way of sort of condensing all of the complete insanity that happened during that trial into a sort of a cohesive flow. If you've ever wanted to actually watch the real trial, all of it is on YouTube, but it will take you forever to get through it all. We're talking like 400 hours of footage, something like that. Like, it's completely mad how much there is. But like after that series came out, I went and bought every book, every single book that was to do with it. I bought Faye Resnick's book, I bought Alan Dershowitz's book, I bought the Nicole Brown story, all the books that were written about that case. I bought and read. I was completely obsessed. The show was very, very good. Sarah Paulson was just amazing in it. Really, really good. And Cuba Gooding Jr., like, one of the best roles of his career, I would definitely say. As well for David Schwimmer, it was nice to see him sort of in front of the camera again. And I thought he played an excellent part playing Robert Kardashian. Really, really good. So if you're a true crime fan, that's definitely one for you. Okay. So we're up to 6. 6 is Rick and Morty. I love Rick and Morty. I didn't like it at first. I thought it was a bit crude. But I came back to it after a while and I rewatched a couple of episodes and I was like, actually, it's quite funny now. So yes, I reversed my decision initially made. I liked Rick and Morty now, and I am very much enjoying the new season, and I can't wait for it to come back and more episodes. And yes, that would be good. Okay, number 7 is The Jinx. Now, this was a HBO docu-series. If you've not seen it, I don't want to ruin it for you, so I'm not going to go into too many details. But this docu-series is about a man called Robert Durst, and Robert Durst's wife went missing and her body has never been found. And Robert Durst was prosecuted and found not guilty for the murder of his neighbour. And then Robert Durst's best friend was also killed. So this is why the show, it's called The Jinx. And it's all about like Robert Durst and his life, and it's interviews and people who he knew, and it's very, very, very good. Please don't look up anything else about it. Please just watch it and enjoy it, because it's one of the best documentary series like ever made. The guy who made it, Jarecki, oh God, what was his Andrew Jarecki, had made a film called All Good Things, which starred Ryan Gosling and Kirsten Dunst. And this was about Robert Durst. And then Robert Durst called him after he'd made the movie and said, "Would you like to interview me?" So that's how the show got made. So, yeah, please watch it and don't spoil yourself on it, because you will regret it forever. Okay. Number 8, Gravity Falls. Okay, Gravity Falls is a cartoon. It was on the Disney Channel. Only 3 seasons long. Created by Alex Hirsch. It's a mystery show. It's got clues laid out all the way through. If you've not seen it, once you sit and watch the first episode, you'll be sitting there with a notepad, like writing things down obsessively. Like, maybe this is a clue. Maybe this is a clue. Oh, maybe this is a clue. I shall write all of this down, and you will make a board, and it will have red string on it going here and here and here. And yeah, it's a very, very, very enjoyable show, even if though it is intended for children. Okay. Number 9, another children's show, sort of, Steven Universe. My friend started going on about Steven Universe, and I was like, what are you talking about? What is this thing that you're talking about all the time? And I just didn't get it until I sat down one day and watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest show. It's ended now. It had a movie, and now a new season has started of a new show called Steven Universe Future. And I'm very much enjoying seeing where Steven Universe Future is going. But yeah, if you are all a fan of things that are beautifully written, lovely songs, tales about like happiness and friendship and love and family, please watch and enjoy Steven Universe. Okay, and finally, number 10, The Orville. The Orville is the Star Trek I've been waiting for since Deep Space Nine finished. Like, seriously, like Voyager was like, Enterprise, we shall not speak of, Discovery. Oh, so much potential. So much potential. Completely lost. Completely and utterly lost. But The Orville is the Star Trek that I've been waiting for. It's funny, it's clever, it's got like excellent characters in it. I love the costumes, I love the aliens in it. Like, season 1 was really good. Season 2 blew it out of the water. I cannot wait to see what season 3 brings. It is so very clear that Seth MacFarlane is such a massive Star Trek fan. And the fact that there's been, I think we were counting, and it's up to about 8 Star Trek alumni have been in it up to this point. And I can only imagine that that's going to continue as it goes on. The season 2 finale was just perfect. Absolutely perfect. So yes, if there's anything on that list that you've not seen that you're thinking, do I need something to watch? Maybe consider one of those shows. If you still love one of the ones on my worst list, I do not have a problem with that. Like, I'm glad that it's not ruined for you. Like, if it's ruined for me, I'm glad that it's not ruined for everyone, because some of them I had so much joy from watching, and now it's just painful memories. That's all I have. Yes. So, the next listicle that I'll be doing will be the top 10 best and worst films of 2019. The rules are, I have to have seen them for them to be on the list, and I have not seen every single film that's come out this year. So, it's just, it is what it is. And I want to thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Contact details are in the description box. Leave me a thumbs up, see? And hopefully I'll see you again next time.